For 2 years, Elara Venn had worn the same sapphire ring on her finger and carried the same promise in her heart. One day, she would become Cassian Vale's wife. To everyone who knew them, they were perfect. Cassian was the heir to one of the wealthiest families on the coast, a man admired for his confidence, generosity, and effortless charm. Elara, in contrast, had built her life without inheritance or privilege. She had grown up learning that love was something earned through loyalty, not something guaranteed by wealth. Perhaps that was why she loved Cassian so deeply. He had never made her feel poor. He had made her feel chosen. On the morning of their second engagement anniversary, Cassian kissed her forehead before leaving their apartment. "I'll be back tonight," he promised. Elara smiled. "You'd better be. I have something planned." He grinned. "For me. For the man I've been tolerating for 2 years. Cassian laughed and kissed her again. It was the last moment Elara would remember as uncomplicated happiness. That afternoon, while she was preparing dinner, her phone vibrated. The message came from an unknown number. There was no explanation. Only a photograph. Elara stared at it. Cassian was standing outside his family's abandoned seaside estate. Her smile disappeared. The estate had been closed for years after Cassian's father died. Cassian had repeatedly told her that nobody lived there and that he had no reason to visit. Yet the photograph had been taken that very afternoon. A second message appeared. "If you want the truth, come alone." Elara should have deleted it. Instead, she grabbed her coat. Rain hammered the windshield as she drove toward the estate. The closer she came, the stronger the uneasiness inside her became. When she arrived, the enormous iron gates stood open. The front door was unlocked. "Cassian!" Her voice disappeared into the empty mansion. She stepped inside. Then she heard something. Laughter. A woman's laughter. Elara froze. She knew that voice. Seraphine. Cassian's younger sister. Elara climbed the staircase slowly, her heartbeat growing louder with every step. At the end of the corridor, a bathroom door stood partially open. Warm steam drifted into the hallway. Then she heard Cassian's voice. "Seraphine, you can't keep doing this." Elara stopped breathing. Her hand trembled as she pushed the door open. The world seemed to collapse. Cassian stood beside a large marble bathtub. Seraphine was inside it. For several seconds, nobody moved. Elara stared at the two people she trusted most. Her fiancé. His sister. The sapphire ring suddenly felt like a chain around her finger. Cassian's face turned white. "Elara." She looked at him. "Tell me I didn't just see what I think I saw." He stepped toward her. "Please, you have to listen. Don't come near me." Seraphine rose from the bath, her expression strangely calm. "Elara, you need to leave." Elara stared at her in disbelief. "You have got to be joking." "Please. Please." Elara's voice cracked. "You are standing in a bathtub with my fiancé, and you're asking me to leave?" Cassian reached for her. Elara stepped backward. 2 years, she whispered. "I waited 2 years to marry you. Elara, this isn't what it looks like." She laughed bitterly. "That's what every guilty person says." She pulled the sapphire ring from her finger. Cassian's expression changed. "Don't." Elara placed the ring on the floor between them. "Congratulations," she said softly. "You don't have to marry me anymore." She turned toward the hallway. Then Seraphine screamed. "Elara, stop." Elara froze. Seraphine's face had suddenly lost all color. Behind Elara, Cassian whispered one sentence that made her blood run cold. "Those men outside aren't here for us." A heavy crash echoed from downstairs. The mansion doors slammed shut. And Elara finally understood that the photograph had never been meant to reveal a betrayal. It had been meant to bring her here. The crash downstairs made Elara flinch, but Cassian moved faster. He seized her wrist and pulled her away from the corridor. "Stay behind me." Elara tore her hand free. "Don't touch me." Cassian stared at her, pain flickering across his face. Elara, listen to me. Whatever you think happened upstairs, you are in danger. Because of you? No. Then because of her? Seraphine stepped into the hallway, still pale from what she had seen through the window. Because of people who want something from this family. Another crash shook the mansion. Elara's anger faltered. Cassian grabbed a heavy brass candlestick from a nearby table. Seraphine hurried toward an old portrait hanging beside the staircase and pressed its frame. A section of the wall opened. Elara stared. You knew about this? Cassian nodded. Come with us. Why should I? Because the men downstairs aren't here to expose an affair, Seraphine said. They're here to kill us. The words silenced Elara. For 2 years, she had known Seraphine as Cassian's elegant, distant sister. She had never been especially warm toward Elara, but neither had she ever been cruel. Now, for the first time, Elara saw fear in her eyes. Not guilt. Fear. A gunshot shattered the silence. Elara gasped. Cassian immediately pulled her into the passage. They ran through the narrow tunnel as footsteps thundered behind them. Seraphine followed, locking the hidden door just before someone slammed against it from the other side. The passage descended beneath the estate and emerged behind a rocky cliff overlooking the sea. Rain lashed their faces. Elara stumbled. Cassian caught her before she fell. She immediately pulled away. I can stand. I know. For some reason, his quiet answer unsettled her more than an argument would have. They crossed the cliffs until they reached an abandoned chapel. Inside, Cassian bolted the door. Seraphine collapsed against the wall. Elara stood apart from them, soaked and trembling. She could no longer decide which frightened her more, the armed men hunting them or the possibility that Cassian had been telling the truth. Then she noticed blood on his shirt. You're hurt. Cassian looked down. It's nothing. It doesn't look like nothing. It's a scratch. Elara hesitated. Her heart told her to leave him bleeding. Her nature refused. She found a first aid box beneath a wooden bench and approached him. Sit. Cassian obeyed. Elara cleaned the wound in silence. When he winced, her fingers paused. Sorry. Cassian looked at her. You don't have to apologize for hurting me. I'm not. The answer was soft. Elara realized he wasn't talking about the wound. She wrapped the bandage around his arm. Then Seraphine spoke. The photograph was sent to you deliberately. Elara turned. By whom? We don't know. That's not good enough. Seraphine swallowed. My father left evidence behind before he died. Evidence that could expose powerful people. Cassian continued. Someone has spent months trying to find it. And what does that have to do with me? They discovered you were the person I trusted most. Elara's expression hardened. Trusted? Cassian lowered his eyes. I should have told you. Yes, you should have. I thought keeping you ignorant would keep you safe. Elara laughed bitterly. Instead, you let me walk into a bathroom and believe the worst thing imaginable. Seraphine suddenly stepped forward. Elara, there was never anything between us. Elara stared at her. Then why were you in that bath? Seraphine's face crumbled. Because I was terrified. She looked at Cassian. And because someone was watching. Elara went still. Cassian reached into his coat and removed a small memory card. This is what they're after. Before Elara could ask another question, a faint sound came from beneath the chapel stairs. A frightened whimper. They all froze. Cassian lifted his weapon. Elara stepped in front of him. Wait. She slowly approached the stairs. A small girl was hiding underneath them. She couldn't have been more than 10. Her clothes were torn, and her face was streaked with tears. Elara knelt. It's all right. The child recoiled. Elara removed her coat and wrapped it around her trembling shoulders. No one is going to hurt you. The girl stared past Elara at Cassian. Then she whispered 3 words. Your father killed mine. Cassian went completely still. Outside, headlights suddenly swept across the chapel windows. Someone had found them, and the little girl knew exactly who was coming. The headlights vanished, and for one breathless moment, the chapel fell silent. Then the front door exploded inward. Cassian grabbed Elara and pulled her behind the stone altar as bullets shattered the wooden benches. Seraphine dropped beside them. How did they find us? Cassian looked toward the frightened girl. They followed her. The child began to sob. Elara wrapped both arms around her. What's your name? Mira. I'm Elara. Mira clung to her coat. Don't let them take me. Elara looked at Cassian. Something inside her had changed. An hour earlier, she had believed this man had destroyed her life. Now, without hesitation, she placed herself between him and a terrified child. No one is taking her. Cassian stared at Elara. For the first time since she had entered the mansion, he saw something other than anger in her eyes. He saw courage. There's another exit, Seraphine whispered. They hurried through the chapel's rear door and into the forest. The storm had intensified, turning the ground into mud beneath their feet. Mira struggled to keep up. Elara lifted her into her arms. You can't carry her all the way, Cassian warned. Then help me. He did. Together, they moved through the darkness until they reached a small cottage hidden among the trees. An elderly man opened the door. Rowan, Cassian said. The doctor immediately stepped aside. Bring the girl inside. Elara carried Mira to the fireplace while Rowan examined her injuries. The child had a deep cut across her arm and bruises around her wrists. Elara's expression hardened. Who did this to her? Mira looked at Cassian. My father. Everyone went silent. Mira continued through her tears. He worked for the men chasing us. He wanted to leave them, but they found out. Cassian crouched beside her. Did my father know your father? Mira nodded. He tried to help him. Elara looked at Cassian. The accusation she had heard in the chapel suddenly made sense. Myra's father had believed Cassian's father was responsible for his suffering, but the truth was more complicated. Cassian opened his hand. The memory card lay in his palm. Your father left this behind. Mira stared at it. He told me if anything happened, I should find the Vale family. Cassian's face tightened. Then why did you say my father killed him? Because that's what the men told me. Elara watched Cassian absorb the revelation. For the first time, she saw the weight he carried. He had spent years believing his father's death was an accident. Now he was discovering that his family had been at the center of something far darker. Rowan treated Myra's wounds while Elara stayed beside her. When the child finally fell asleep, Elara stepped outside. Cassian followed. For several moments, they stood beneath the shelter of the porch while rain battered the forest. You should hate me, he said. Elara stared into the darkness. I do. Cassian nodded. She continued. But I don't know what I hate anymore. He looked at her. The photograph. The bathroom. The lies. Everything I believed about you. I know. You could have told me. I was afraid. Of what? Of losing you. Elara finally turned toward him. You lost me anyway. Cassian's eyes lowered. I know. The simple admission weakened her anger. He wasn't defending himself. He wasn't asking for forgiveness. He was accepting the damage he had caused. Then Cassian reached into his pocket and removed something. Her engagement ring. Elara stared. You left it at the mansion. I don't want it. I know. He held it out. Then why bring it? Because I couldn't leave it there. Elara's eyes filled with tears. Why? Cassian's voice broke. Because even after everything, I still love you. Elara looked away. Her heart wanted to believe him. Her mind refused. Before she could answer, Rowan rushed onto the porch. We have a problem. Cassian turned. What? Rowan held up a phone. There was a message sent from this cottage. Elara's stomach dropped. To whom? Rowan looked at Cassian. Everyone. A distant engine roared through the forest. Then another. And another. Cassian immediately moved toward the door. Elara caught his arm. Where are you going? To stop them. No. He stared at her. Elara tightened her grip. You said you were afraid of losing me. Cassian nodded. Then stop trying to protect me by leaving me behind. For the first time, Cassian had no argument. Elara turned to Seraphine. How do we get Mira out? Seraphine pointed toward the mountains. There is an old mine tunnel beneath the cottage. Cassian looked at Elara. Once we enter, there may be no way back. Elara took Myra's hand. Then we make sure we don't need one. Outside, the headlights drew closer. And somewhere beyond the trees, the man who had orchestrated everything finally stepped from the darkness. Dorian Crest. Elara's trusted business partner. The man she had never once suspected. He smiled as he watched the cottage. Bring me the girl, he ordered. Then his gaze settled on the window. And bring me Elara. His smile disappeared. Alive. The headlights were almost upon them. Cassian grabbed the memory card and slipped it into his pocket. We move now. Rowan led them through a concealed passage beneath the cottage while Elara held Myra's hand. Seraphine stayed close behind, carrying the small backpack she had prepared for the girl. They had barely entered the tunnel when the cottage door splintered. Dorian's men poured inside. Elara glanced back once. Then she kept moving. The passage ended at the abandoned mine, where darkness swallowed them whole. Cassian guided them through the winding tunnels until they reached an old chamber beneath the mountain. We're trapped, Seraphine whispered. No, Elara replied. We're waiting. She had finally understood what Dorian wanted. The memory card. Mira. And her. Dorian believed fear made people predictable. Elara intended to prove him wrong. She asked Cassian for the card. His expression tightened. Elara, no. Trust me. Those two words struck him harder than anything else she had said that night. For 2 years, Cassian had tried to protect her by keeping secrets. Now, finally, he gave her the truth. He handed over the card. Elara smiled faintly. Thank you. Minutes later, Dorian appeared with his men. He looked almost amused. Elara, I was beginning to wonder whether you'd ever understand the game. She stepped forward. You sent the photograph. Dorian smiled. Of course. You wanted me to hate Cassian. I wanted you to break his trust in you. A frightened man is easier to control than a loyal one. Cassian moved forward, but Elara stopped him. Dorian laughed. Still protecting her? Elara looked at Cassian. No. She took his hand. We're protecting each other. Dorian's smile vanished. Elara had secretly activated the emergency signal Rowan had given her. Police sirens echoed through the mountain. Dorian turned toward the tunnel. Too late. His men scattered, but officers surrounded the mine from every entrance. Dorian was arrested before he could escape. The memory card revealed everything. The criminal network, the murders, the financial crimes, and the truth about Cassian's father. He had not betrayed Myra's family. He had tried to save them. The truth finally freed Cassian from the shadow of a man he had spent years blaming. But freedom did not erase the damage between him and Elara. Several weeks later, Elara returned to the seaside estate. Cassian was waiting outside. He didn't approach her. He simply stood there. Elara looked at the mansion. The bathroom is still there. I know. Are you going to sell the house? Cassian shook his head. No. Why? Because you once thought that room was where your life ended. He looked toward the garden. I want to make sure it becomes the place where someone else's life begins again. Elara stared at him. Cassian explained that he planned to transform the estate into a sanctuary for women and children escaping violence. Seraphine had already volunteered to help run it. Rowan would provide medical care. Mira would have a permanent home there whenever she needed one. Elara's eyes filled with tears. "You really mean it?" Cassian nodded. "I can't change what happened to you. No. But I can help make sure it doesn't happen to someone else." Elara walked toward him. Cassian remained still. He had finally learned not to demand forgiveness. She stopped inches away. "You hurt me. I know. You lied to me. I know. You made me believe the worst thing imaginable." His eyes filled with regret. "I know." Elara studied his face. Then she smiled through her tears. "But when everything fell apart, you never stopped trying to save people." Cassian whispered her name. "I don't know if I can forget what happened." "You shouldn't." She took his hand. "But I think I can forgive you." Cassian closed his eyes. For the first time, Elara saw him cry. Not the wealthy heir. Not the man everyone admired. Just Cassian. The man who had loved her badly, protected her foolishly, and finally learned that trust could not survive inside a cage of secrets. 1 year later, the old estate had become a refuge. The bathroom was gone. In its place stood a glass-roofed garden filled with flowers. Mira lived nearby with Rowan and visited every afternoon. Seraphine helped Elara run the sanctuary. And Cassian no longer tried to control Elara's life. He simply stood beside her. On a quiet winter evening, he led her into the garden. Elara stopped when she saw hundreds of candles glowing beneath the trees. Mira stood at the center, holding a small velvet box. Elara looked at Cassian. "What is this?" He smiled. "Something I should have done differently the first time." Mira handed Elara the box. Inside was not an engagement ring. It was a key. Engraved upon it were 4 words. "A home of your own." Elara looked up. Cassian spoke softly. "This place belongs to you." Her eyes widened. "To me. To you and everyone you choose to protect." Elara began to cry. Then Cassian reached into his pocket. This time, he held out a ring. Not the old sapphire. A new one. "I don't want the woman who trusted me 2 years ago," he said. "I want the woman who challenged me, fought beside me, and taught me that love without honesty isn't love at all." Elara stared at the ring. Then she surprised everyone. She stepped back. Cassian's heart sank. But Elara was smiling. She reached into her own pocket. "I have something for you too." She opened a small box. Inside was a matching ring. Cassian stared at her. Elara laughed through her tears. "You took too long." Then she knelt. Cassian immediately dropped to his knees beside her. "Elara." Everyone laughed. She held out the ring. "2 years ago, I said yes to the man I thought you were." Cassian's eyes filled again. "Today, I choose the man I know you are." He took her hand. "And I choose you." Their wedding took place in the garden months later, surrounded by the people they had rescued and the family they had chosen. The mansion that had once represented betrayal became a place of kindness. The woman who had arrived there believing her love story was over-discovered that it had only been beginning. And the bathtub where Elara had once believed she had caught the ultimate betrayal was never remembered again as the place where her heart was broken. It became the place where the old life was demolished. And from its ruins, something far better was built. A home. A family. A future. And a love that survived the truth.